Oh, welcome back to this almost assembled Marchant. So, as you can see, I was able to get the, you can't really see, I was able to get the table pin out of here, put up quite a fight. You know, I thought these punches were supposed to be hardened, but it doesn't look very hardened to me. Should have broke before it bent, but whatever. Anyway, that's out, so I got this funnel so I could get in here, and I did a little bit of adjustment, but I think it is going to need some more. And you can see when I pushed all twos down, everything more or less lines up. And when you engage the detents, you can see everything does rise to 2. But some of these in the middle here, they move quite a bit, and I really don't like that. So I think I am going to do some more adjusting on those. Because you can see how this one barely moves at all. Like this one here is basically perfect. And I push in the detent, like you can't even notice any movement really. All these other ones are pretty far out. They're just barely being brought in by the detent. So I'm not a big fan of that. I think I'm going to try and adjust this one. What I do is, around to the back here. So you can see that all these detents here, well, let me clear one. So you can see that all of these risers here stop against this bar. So I'll put a screwdriver in here to pry that, as forward as possible. I'll have to hold it probably to get it to stay, or it'll stay. And then with that held as forward as possible, let's go down here. And sure if you can see it now, but see the bar with the holes in it is all the way down at the bottom. So see this piece right here? Then what I do is I'll hold this screwdriver, pushing that all the way forward, and then I'll go under here, and my camera is in exactly the way, and I'll bend this up a little bit, and now, ideally, I should have made a difference. So if we push 2 now, see it still moves a little bit, but there's slightly less movement when I engage the detent. So I might bend it just a little bit more, but I think this one is pretty close now to where I want it to be. Just a little tiny bit of movement, could be better. Not sure how perfect I want to get with this, but you see how far these other ones here are moving. Those definitely, I'm going to do some more adjustment on those. So I'm going to do that process for the rest of columns and see how close we can get it. Yeah, so this is where I ended up. I got all the twos pushed down, and you can see when I engage the detent, just a little bit of wiggling from most of them. I'm going to leave it like that. That should definitely be fine. It's way better than it was, when all these are moving quite a distance. So I think that'll be okay. So let's see if we can. That should be in the last position. Let's clear out the accumulator here. Didn't put the crank handle back in here, I have to do that, but yeah, so that's clear. So let's see what we can do. Try 1, 2, 3. Something to turn the crank handle so I get oil over it. Try that it's fine. Oops, I didn't let the crank handle all the way back in. If you don't let the crank handle all the way back in, it won't release the locks there. 4, 5, 6. There we go. Now it's correct. Alright, good. So hopefully that should be it for keyboard setup. I will have to realign this thingy now with what goes in there with the shifter thing, and then this bracket goes on the front to hold it, and then once the front plate goes back in, we can repin the little knob on the front there. Have to do that. I think the next thing to go in would probably be this plate here, and also put the front plate back on the carriage just to keep that in line. So yeah, I think that should be coming along pretty nicely now. Just a few more parts to put back on. So I'm probably going to do this first, to wiggle that back in. And I was mistaken earlier about this pin. Actually, this pin here can be pretty high up. I thought that the carriage is hitting on that, but actually the carriage doesn't even go over that far. So I was mistaken here on where the end where the last position was for this. I was trying to push it over further than it should go. So that was my mistake. This pin, the carriage should never go over far enough to hit this pin during normal operation. And we would see that once we put this plate back on the front, because this cutout in it here is what acts as the end stops for it. So with this plate on, the carriage can never get over that far. So that's fine. I did have to take the bottom back off to drive that pin back out that I put in too far, and it was sticking on this piece, but it's fine now. So yeah, so far adding seems to be working. So I just put this plate back on the front of the carriage, and so as you can see when you push this button now, it has positive stops either end, and it doesn't get anywhere near that pin, so that should be fine. Well, the next thing to do is put these plates on the front here. The weird thing is, with this plate that goes on the side, there's a screw in it, but the screw doesn't go into anything. It just sticks out the bottom, but there's no hole here for the screw to go into. So I guess the screw's just there to make it look nice. I really don't know. This plate is on the electric model where the switch would be. So you can see there's a cutout in the casting here for the switch to go in. But that's kind of weird. That's where the screw is, so there's nothing for it to go into. Just break it off a little bit. And it might just slide under that, or I might have to. It just slide under that. So yeah, that's just slides under there, and that's it. Then the plate, the cover that goes on the front here, I guess prevents it from sliding out, but just bizarre. Anyway, so I think I pretty much explained before how this works. Okay, here, let's see. This is what the clear key presses on. It just pushes on the clear plate, and you can see that plate just pulls all the releases on the keyboard. So that's what that piece is for. This piece is the repeat, non-repeat, and I think I explained before, you can see when I push down on this, how a little piece rises up here. That piece is attached to a eccentric on one of the gears, and then as you rotate the machine, this pulls back and releases the keyboard. So that's pretty basic, really. And then there's also another piece in the back. This is definitely getting heavy now. Put the feet back on so it doesn't keep pinching my fingers. There's this piece here, which will go like that, and then when you push the non-repeat key down, it will push that up like that. I'm not quite sure what the point of this is. This is the detent release, but when the crank handle is in the home position, like it's already released. Like these detents are already released. You can see they're already back. So what the point of that is, I'm not entirely sure, unless like maybe they wanted to make it possible for you to enter a number without releasing the crank pin. Not really sure about that, but anyway, that's what that's for. I put a new cotter pin in that side because I kind of messed up the one that was in there. See the bell thing there should work. So this will just have to be held up when I put the plate back in for that. All right, otherwise, definitely coming together now. Still have to clean up the front plate for the carriage and put that in, and put the cover back on for this back half, and then put the shifter handle back on the front. And I also have to fix the carriage clearing crank that was kind of messed up, and clean up the decimal pointers. But mostly clean up and reassembly, not much more to do. I just kind of wanted to end here by pointing out some weird things. So the first weird thing is, as you can see, we have the bushing here and here for the automatic mechanism. That's the drive shaft with the motor inputs. Why they put the brass bushings in, I don't really know. I can understand how they might use the same castings for the hand cranked and the electric version, but why they would bother to put the brass inserts in on the hand cranked version, I'm not really sure. It's kind of weird. Another thing is this machine serial number is 1958, I think, or 1959, something like that. But you'll notice there's a stamp here for 5366. So I don't know if this got a different serial number for some reason, or whether, there's something scratched in it there. Can't really read what it says. Unless that's the serial number scratched in there. Why there would be a different number there, I'm not sure. It's just something interesting to point out. And another interesting thing is, let's see if we can show this, how we can show it anyway. Need to get on like sideways, really. So you can see this casting here has like a part of the frame, I guess you'd call it, here and here, these circular pieces. That looks to me like where gears would go for the Model H, which had the crank right about here, and then you would have like the crank input and then gear train driving down somehow underneath and then up to the back, instead of the crank on the side, or the crank on the close to the back like we have it. So why those pieces are there, I really don't know. As far as I know, the Model H wasn't made until later, but it's interesting that they have those pieces in the casting there. So obviously we can tell by these bushings here that this particular machine was made after the introduction of the electric one. Now I'm not quite sure what the difference is between this machine and the KC. This is the KE, but the capacity is the same as the KC. Now the KA, the KB, and the KC were all hand cranked machines, but they all had different capacities. So the only difference between like the KA and the KB was like the number of keyboard columns and the size of the accumulator and so on. Why they came out with the KE, I don't know. As far as I can tell, this would be the same as the KC. It has the same capacity as the KC, and without actually having a KC to compare it to, I'm not really sure what differences there would be there. Like from the outside it looks the same, and the capacity is the same, so it's just something interesting. Not quite sure what the deal is with that, but anyway, might only be one more or two more videos on this, but definitely getting close now. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching.